It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Unhappy Hour. And we're going to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes. I know I'm showing you a Cleveland Browns glass. Cheers. Happy New Year to everybody. Leave your comments and questions about the Ohio State Buckeyes. Go ahead and leave your comments. On the screen, I'm in two different Facebook groups. One is called The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group, and then the other one is called Strictly Browns, powered by The Unhappy Hour. So we're going to recap the Rose Bowl game. And we're going to go to Justin Engelman. That would be my cousin. He was on the field for the game. So we're going to get his thoughts on what he saw. Oh, Hangouts needs to access your microphone to click the allow button at the top of your... Yeah, right. Yes, yes. Make the call. There we go.
Hello.
All right, Justin, you are live on the air on the Unhappy Hour. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, Justin. You were on the field yesterday for a historic victory for the Ohio State Buckeyes over the Washington Huskies. I don't know. Where do you want to start? Tell us about your day. Tell us about what you saw on the field. Tell us how we kind of put this season in the books. Where do you want to start?
Well, it was just very special. I mean, just being at the Rose Bowl in of itself is a true privilege. Kirk Herbstreit said it's his favorite sporting venue. He thinks it's the best sporting venue in all of sports. It wound up being a good game, a good finish. So that's always exciting. Last year's Georgia Oklahoma was a great game, but this one was very special. I think what just made it so special, Brian, was the many different dynamics that played into the game. You know, of course, Urban Meyer's last game coaching, at least for the Buckeyes, maybe ever. It was his first Rose Bowl he's ever coached. I heard in an interview before the game that he had never even been in the stadium before.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting to hear.
Yeah, he had never even been in the stadium. So for him to be there and to win in his first Rose Bowl game and possibly last game ever was really cool. See him with his family there and just enjoying that special moment. But a lot of cool things played out for sure.
It sure did. Dwayne Haskins, 3 touchdowns, 251 yards. Is he, and I put this question out into our sports groups on Facebook and then on Twitter. Do you think he's the most NFL-ready quarterback in this upcoming draft? Could he be QB1 taken?
Well, I think he could, and possibly because Oregon's quarterback, who is very highly liked with the experts, the draft experts, decided to go back to Oregon to play another year. So, that's probably going to motivate Haskins even more to go into the draft, to declare for the draft. But I think so. I mean, if you just look at some of his stats, the records he broke this year for Ohio State, I mean, it's truly incredible. And he's only a sophomore. And honestly, could be considered a freshman. He only played against Michigan last year for a quarter, for that fourth quarter. So, I mean, what he did this year is, truly, truly remarkable. The records he broke, the passing touchdowns, not just for Ohio State, but for the whole Big Ten Conference. I mean, surpassed Drew Brees for touchdowns in one season. I mean, it's incredible. Passing yards this year. It's just for the Ohio State. It's just amazing what he was able to accomplish this year as a sophomore. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really was. And, to be breaking Drew Brees type records in the Big Ten is a pretty darn big deal. And there's a lot of people that are even saying with Urban Meyer leaving now that we're not only going to not take a step backward, we might take a step forward with Ryan Day. Now, I know Urban Meyer, he's had, Tim Tebow, Alex Smith, who was it, Josh Harris back at Bowling Green. I mean, he gets great play out of quarterbacks. But does Urban Meyer, aside from Alex Smith, who with the gruesome injury might have his career ended, and it was a pretty strong, solid, long career, the difference between a Dwayne Haskins and someone like a J.T. Barrett, the difference, that it's a different kind of in-the-pocket, pass-first quarterback going through your reads and anticipatory throws, that might even be something that the Buckeyes could improve upon next year. So, I mean, talk about that for a second, what you saw with the past few Buckeye quarterbacks, what you saw out of Urban as a coach and how he developed his players, and then transition it into your thoughts on Ryan Day and what we should expect next year at quarterback.
Absolutely. One stat that I'm going over a media guide here that they passed out for the media outlets. It was just incredible, this stat here for Ohio State receivers. Ohio State has 4 receivers this year in the 1,000 receiving yards club, and it's never been done before at Ohio State. They've had 2 before, but they've never had 4. I mean, it's incredible. KJ Hill, 1,634 receiving yards. Paris Campbell, 1,608. Terry McLaurin, 1,141. And Johnny Dixon with 1,100 receiving yards. And this is all heading into the Rose Bowl. So 4 receivers, Brian, to reach 1,000 receiving yards in one season. I mean, that's just mind-boggling.
You know who that
reminds? A lot of that has to go credit to Ryan Day. And here's another incredible stat. Are you ready for this? We had 2 running backs. First time we've had 2 running backs to reach, or not the first time, the second time, to reach 1,000 rushing yards in a season. We had 2 1,000-yard rushers in Mike Weber and Dobbs.
Man, it reminds me a little bit of Baker Mayfield, how, he'll hit 11, there'll be completions to 9 different receivers, to, 11, 10 different receivers. It's a balanced attack that's based on what the defense gives you, as opposed to, we've seen it for so many years to switch it back to the NFL. We've seen, Matt Stafford airing it up to Megatron 20 times a game. Matt Ryan doing that to Julio Jones, just a volume receiver that you're just overloading it and you're just force-feeding the ball that way, hoping that something happens, versus you go through your progressions, you throw it to the fullback, you throw it to the blocking tight end if he's the one that's open. You're running it to multiple people. You don't have the Eddie George, the bell cow back like you used to. The game has changed. And that's kind of why I'm thinking that this might be really interesting for Dwayne Haskins, possibly coming out as QB1. Brian May is saying over here in the Facebook group, by the way, leave your comments live if you want to ask myself or Justin anything about the Buckeyes and the Huskies Rose Bowl game. The Buckeyes won 28-23. Buckeyes finished the season 13-1 on the season. But Brian May was saying, no, not QB1. So I'll ask him, who do you have as QB1? But yeah, anyway, Justin, on top of that, that Haskins might be the prototypical current NFL quarterback prototype, a la Baker Mayfield. It reminds me of what the Cleveland Indians just did. Remember, the Cleveland Indians just had, what was that stat they had with 4 of their starting pitchers? They set a mark for how many strikeouts in a season? That's never happened before either.
200 strikeouts in 1 year. A quick stat correction, okay? This was the first time Ohio State's had 2 running backs with not 1,000 yards rushing. That's happened before, but 2,000 yards rushing. Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins each had 2,000 yards rushing, and I don't know what to even say about that.
That's on the season. Hey, see, I don't have that in front of me. I'm looking. See, what I have here is I have 2018 season, 172 rushing attempts, 954 yards, 5 touchdowns for Mike Weber. I got career. Maybe that's career.
No, this is career. This is career.
Yeah,
This is
2676 in Mike Weber's career. 2676 in his career, and then 2456 in J.K. Dobbins' career. 17 touchdowns. Okay, that's what it is. It's a total career.
It's career rushing yards.
Yeah, and it's just it hurts being on the outside of that college football playoff. Do you think this Buckeye team could have beat Notre Dame? Do you think they could have beaten Oklahoma? Do you think they could have beaten Alabama or Clemson?
I think, like Urban Meyer said towards the end of one of his last on the field interview there, I think they started to hit on all cylinders towards the end of the season. It's kind of similar to the 2014 year. I think that we would have definitely gotten past Notre Dame. I think it would have been a great game against Oklahoma. I think there's no reason why we couldn't have beaten Oklahoma. I'm not sure with Clemson, Alabama, just seeing them play this past playoff game, they look unbelievable. But at the same time, I think we have enough athletes to compete with them. You know what I'm saying? I think we have enough weapons to put a good game together and potentially win. So, I would have liked to see it have happened. It's just kind of disappointing. A few years ago, Baylor and TCU were penalized for not having a conference championship.
Yeah.
In 2014, when Ohio State gets in, they were penalized for not having that conference championship, and yet Notre Dame, isn't held to the same standard, which we understand they have the following they have and the history there. They have an undefeated team, but I think that that should definitely be something to put in consideration for a requirement to have a conference championship. Now, here's another reason why I say that is I think plays a huge factor once the bowl game rolls around. And I think we saw this back when Tressel had his teams in the national championship when we got blown out in 07 or 06 and 07. Okay? When you don't have a conference championship game, the layoff between your last regular season game and the bowl game is unbelievable. You're almost going 2 months without playing a game. You have all of December off. Ohio State they played Michigan as their last game of the season, 06, 07. They wouldn't play, until January.
That is a lot of time off.
That's a lot of time off. You have the holidays in between. I mean, a lot of game action that you're not seeing. And I think that plays a big part in the product that comes out for the bowl game. And that's what happens when you have a team that doesn't play in the conference championship game.
I'm kind of with you there. Now, and that's what the question has been. Should they expand to six teams in the football playoff or 8 teams? What you had in this year, you had some people saying that what you actually should do is you should contract. You should contract it and say, see, this is why you should only have 2 teams going and playing for the championship. There's no, the drop off after number 1, number 2 is drastic. And no, you don't need 6 teams. No, you don't need 8 teams for that. So I don't know. I want to ask you what you think. But before I do, I just want to say Sal Harris is in the group, in the Facebook group. He's saying Ohio State could beat Notre Dame, could beat Oklahoma, could beat Georgia. And he's saying, adding about Notre Dame, always the exception. You get to see them on NBC, on national television, to see them play trash teams. So that's kind of confirming, kind of adding a little bit to what you were just saying. But what do you say with the amount of teams competing for the championship, Justin? Is 4 correct? Should we contract it down to 2? Do you like 6 with the first 2 teams getting a bye week? Do you like 8? What do you think?
A lot of people want the 8 team system, the playoff system, I think 6 would be a happy medium there. I think 6 would be good. You're always going to say, well, the 7. They're always going to have an argument. Well, the 7th and 8th team, or the 9th and 10th team, we're going to have an argument. But I think there is a huge drop off between six teams. You know what I'm saying? Between talent and the ability to compete. I think you have the power conferences. Maybe they're conference champion. I think it's definitely something that needs to be put in consideration, because we ran into something this year that maybe we haven't run into, is just so many teams that were undefeated. Last year I think this Ohio State team would have gotten in. A one-loss team, conference champion. I mean, that's usually a ticket into the playoff. But I think if they moved it to 6, it would be better, because it would give the power conferences an opportunity to play, and then there's enough drop off between 7, 8, and 9 that you can make a case for the top 6 teams playing, and then the bye would maybe defeat the argument of injury possibilities. But look, the NFL has multiple rounds in their playoff system. I don't necessarily going to buy this injury topic. I understand they're playing to get in the NFL, a lot of these guys, so they don't want to get injured. A lot of them sit out in their bowl game, but I don't buy that. This year was disgraceful, with Notre Dame getting blown out. They just did not belong. I mean, I think that was very evident.
Yeah, and it's just tough. Urban Meyer, he came in when the team was under suspension from the Jim Tressel stuff, and that was an undefeated season. He never had a chance to play for the championship that year. That kind of stinks. And he had 2 seasons where he was number 5, number 6. First one out, odd man out. Just on the outside looking in. His legacy could be even a little bit different if that had been the case. But it's tough trying to figure out where you draw the line. By the way, Sal Harris in the group on Facebook, he's saying 6 conference champions with the best records. Just the 6 conference champs with the best records, put them in. Brian is going back to the quarterback. He says Dwayne Haskins is a great college QB and great stats. It just he won't be drafted QB1. He thinks Greer is QB1. And regarding what you were just saying about the playoffs, Brian is saying he agrees with you on this one for sure. But let's kind of start wrapping this up here. I know we don't have you for too long today, Justin, but you did a great job. You can see Justin's videos on our Facebook group. They're private groups, The Unhappy Hour Sports Show. Go ahead and join that. And the other one's called Strictly Buckeyes, powered by The Unhappy Hour. But Justin was there getting interviews and talking, right next to Urban Meyer, getting his interview, talked with Coach Day. What do you have to say about the legacy of Urban Meyer? We're closing the door, starting a new chapter as Ohio State Buckeye fans. This is perhaps, arguably, the finest era to have ever been an Ohio State Buckeye fan. The run of being undefeated against Michigan and our playoff success and the national championship. It's all part of the Urban Meyer legacy. So, Justin, what do you do with the legacy? Do you see it as complicated, given how it really kind of seems like he was pushed out by the Ohio State athletic department to some degree, getting suspended for a few games earlier this season, despite any proof, no convictions, no charges being filed of anything. Urban was really hammered this year. What do you make of his legacy?
It's what Urban Meyer was able to accomplish in his tenure as a coach in college football it's amazing. And it's unfortunate that there had to be a couple stains that might be looked at on his legacy. All the arrests in Florida, or at Florida, and, this unfortunate Zach Smith situation. I mean, I think the fact that he was able to go out on top, he wasn't fired. Tressel being fired, that's always going to be remembered. Woody Hayes fired. So the fact that he was able to go on top to finish with the Rose Bowl win, I think that's going to help his legacy. To look at the accomplishments Urban Meyer was able to make is unbelievable. He's third all time in winning percentage, only behind Frank Leahy, legendary Frank Leahy and Newt Rockne of Notre Dame, those dominant Notre Dame teams. He finished very close behind Leahy. So the third winningest college football coach of all time. It's incredible. I was just looking at some just cool stats here. One that kind of opened that stood out. He was 10-0 in overtime games. 10-0, never lost in overtime. Just some amazing accomplishments. He won at every program. Every program he was at, he went 4-0 in every program. What coach can say that he's done that? Saban can't say that. Les Miles can't say that. Stoops. If you think of coaches that come to mind, but to win at Bowling Green and to have an undefeated team at Utah, to bring Florida back on the map, and to resurrect a program that maybe in different hands would have fallen away just after the whole Tressel mess. He answered that with a 12-0 season. So just what he's been able to do is just it's incredible, and I think it speaks for itself. And for the few examples of maybe poor examples of players, you think of Hernandez and maybe a coach with Smith. Think of all the prizes that's come out of his coaching career, and all the victories and all the success stories. I think Urban Meyer's legacy will go down as one of the greatest, and I think it should be.
Absolutely, and I was there at Bowling Green. I was there at Bowling Green when Coach Meyer came in and really put our program on the map. We had College Game Day come in. That was when the MAC conference was starting to get some respect. Then watched him go to Utah, and we called him Urban Liar because he said he was never leaving Bowling Green. But, a badass coach like that, you expect that he might go on to greener pastures. Rooted against him at Florida. Obviously, they took down the Buckeyes for a title, and then came to the Buckeyes, and just the dominance against that team up north. How important to his legacy is that unblemished record against that team up north, Justin?
That might be the most cherished accomplishment. As far as the Buckeye coach of Ohio State. It's amazing, and that's the most important game of the season. Any Buckeye will tell you that. And the fact that he would go undefeated against good coaches, Jim Harbaugh, Brady Hoke, he did something that I think is the most meaningful to Ohio State fans, and that's to have never lost against the team up north. It is something that I think could be undervalued sometimes. Just how amazing that accomplishment is. The friends and the peers that we might have that are fans of the team up north, and they went 0-7 against Urban Meyer. It's incredible.
Absolutely. By the way, Sal Harris in the group, he's saying great pictures from Justin yesterday with Eddie George and Chris Carter, etc. Great stuff, man. On the field for a historic night. I was there for Jim Tressel's final game with Terrell Pryor as the Buckeyes beat the Oregon Ducks all those years ago, and you were down there for this one. really good stuff, man. Getting those interviews, getting those pictures. Give me a prediction on the championship game real quick. Alabama, Clemson.
I would love to see Clemson come out with the upset. Obviously Alabama's the favorite. It's. I just read an article today. It's interesting how the ticket prices for this championship game have plummeted. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
But $150 for a championship game, and they made the mistake of having it in, California. Last year that was in Atlanta, and it was just a great, spot, melting pot there for all those SEC fans. But, I would love to see Clemson come out with the win and the upset. So honestly, it's a toss-up for me. I don't even know if I have a good prediction, but I could see Dabo Swinney coming out with a win here. Just another rematch coming off of last year. So I'll put it Clemson by a score. Clemson by a touchdown.
All right. Low scoring or high scoring?
Oh, high scoring. High scoring. I say high. I could see 34-27, somewhere around there maybe.
Okay.
Although, a lot of these national championship games that Alabama plays in are low scoring, so who knows? But I want to shoot for maybe a 34-27
All right.
outcome.
34-27 Clemson. Brian May saying he's got to hop off. Great show tonight. Happy New Year, everyone. Cheers. And he says, a shot of bourbon for Urban. Apparently, I coined a term yesterday. I don't know if I was in the sports group because I was cheersing Urban Meyer, or if I was in my food and drink group because I was cooking cabbage, sauerkraut, and what did I have? Sauerkraut and pork yesterday for the traditional meal. But I said bourbon for Urban, and I think that's a thing. So we got to make urban bourbon now. I can see the merchandising opportunities lining up in front of us. Sal is saying about Clemson, he says, Clemson has a chance. The defense is tough. If they play like they did against Georgia, Clemson may win. He's going to say 21-28. So kind of in the same wheelhouse. He could see them by a score, around that 28 to 34, 27, like you were guessing as well. So we will see how that goes with the national championship game. Just to circle back around, we talked about Urban. We kind of talked about Coach Day. But I want to end it. I want to just double down and make sure that we've addressed this. What do you know about Coach Day? Are you confident that the program can maintain its kind of unprecedented success, or should we brace ourselves for a decline in performance out of the Buckeyes? Let's end with a 2019 season preview under Coach Day. Do we get that kid from Georgia to transfer? Does Dwayne Haskins do the unthinkable and decide to stay a season? Project what you see coming down the road for the Buckeyes in 2019, and we'll let you go.
All right, well, I think we have a good recent example, maybe something we can hope for with Oklahoma, where Stoops handed down to Lincoln Riley, and you didn't see any drop-off there. I could see something very similar, just the attitude, the morale I saw with the players being interviewed and talking to a couple of them. I see a very confident spirit, a confident attitude in Ryan Day. I think Urban Meyer's done a good job of kind of mentoring him, and just the fact that he had, 3 games? Was it 4? My mind kind of slipped there. Is it 3 or 4 game suspension? I think, was it a 3-game suspension?
I believe it was 3, yeah.
3-game suspension where, Ryan Day had the reins. I think we might see how that could have maybe helped a lot in the process. Because it's big shoes to fill. I mean, this is a program where you're expected to win every single game. I mean, the pressure and the intensity level is unlike few programs. So, or like few programs. So, the fact that he had some time there, he had a kind of a season where it was mentoring, grooming, I think is going to help him. The confidence level with the players, I think, is very high. So I think it could be a very good transition, and definitely one that can be very smooth. And so I like Ryan Day. I think he's going to do a great job. I think he has a great offensive mind, and I think we saw that this year just with, what he was able to do with Haskins in his first year. So I'm very confident in that. A very fast offense, and it can be conservative, but it can be a very effective, lethal attack. So I like Ryan Day. I don't think Haskins is coming back. I really don't. There might be a slight part of me says, well, he might not feel like he's ready. It might feel like he wants to experience more of the college life, just leaving as a sophomore. But I would be surprised if he comes back. And Tate Martell, is a competitor. So I think it would be interesting if we got Georgia's highly touted freshman to transfer. Who knows what might play out there. But I don't see Haskins coming back. I think Ryan Day is set up for success there in the program, and I think next year will be an exciting season for sure.
All right. Well, yeah, Dwayne Haskins, 4,831 yards passing this year, 50 touchdowns. That's 50 touchdowns. I mean, you're putting up video game numbers. You remember when Cardale Jones, the third-string quarterback, the year the Buckeyes won the championship in 20? Geez, what year now? 2014. With Ezekiel Elliott. There's that story about when Cardale Jones went and played a sick kid in the hospital in a college football video game, and said, "Why did you beat him 71 to 7?" He goes, "Don't get it twisted. I beat him 78 to 7." I don't know where you're getting that 71 from, or whatever the number was. I don't know it exactly off the top of my head, but it was almost reminiscent of asking Coach Hayes, why did you were up by so many points against that team up north. Why did you go for 2 in the fourth quarter? He says, because I couldn't go for 3. So anyway, I'm just saying that the Ohio State program in general has a tendency of putting up video game numbers, and 50 touchdowns, 4,800 yards passing from Dwayne Haskins are certainly video game type numbers. So we'll see. I hope. I don't know. I'm not expecting him to come back, but I did see him lobbying to kind of get some of the other players to come back and try it one more time. I think he wants to come back. Part of him wants to come back, and the latest story I saw is that he hasn't made a decision yet. I haven't made a decision yet is the exact quote for him as of yesterday. So we'll see what happens with Haskins. Time to turn it over to Coach Day, but thank God it has been a really a blessed time to be an Ohio State Buckeye fan. Coach Meyer did a fantastic job leading this team to unprecedented success. Just the consistency of dominating that team up north and winning a title and tons of Big Ten championships. Just great, man. So, Justin, thank you so much for joining us today, man. I appreciate it. I'll post this into both of the groups, the Strictly Buckeyes group and the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, and then I'll go ahead and post this to YouTube as well. Any final words for everybody? You want to put a bow on this? Post-Christmas, post-New Year? Put a bow on it. Wrap it up.
Season ends on a high note. Rose Bowl victory, granddaddy of them all. Buckeye fans, we can be pleased. We can go into the off season, rest assured, and at the end of an era that didn't end necessarily with a firing and a scandal necessarily. So I think we have a lot to be excited for our future, and a great finish to a good season, a very good season.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Justin. Great job yesterday, man. We'll talk a little bit more off air.
Thanks, Brian.
That's my cousin, Justin Engelman, on the field, getting the interviews, getting the pictures, doing all the stuff yesterday for the Ohio State Buckeyes game, defeating the Washington Huskies in the Rose Bowl. Buckeyes finished 13-1 on the season. Just really good stuff. Really good stuff. Thank you guys for all being a part of this group in Facebook. Invite your friends. Invite your Buckeye friends, Indians, Cavs, Browns, Buckeyes, anything sports. We love sports. Love the humor of it. And we'll post this on YouTube. If you are not subscribed to us, subscribe to YouTube. We're going to bring you a lot of varied content. We may split the channels off in a couple different directions, and you might get a scatter shot. Some sports, some politics, some current events, some cooking, some gardening. We're going to get you a lot of different content this year. That's the goal. 2019, turning the leaf. You're going to see a bit of a revamped The New American Media. That's my game plan. So for now, I'm going to sign out. Cheers. Bourbon for Urban. Thank you for a great career. Focus on your health, bro. Don't come back to coaching. Just do what you got to do. Your health should be coming first. Listen to your wife, okay? Don't give the haters who think that. Just listen to your wife. That's my recommendation to you. Thank you for a great career. We'll talk with you again soon. Take care. Peace.
The Unhappy Hour on thenewamericanmedia.com.